Welcome, everyone. It's another GoDaddy Pro EMEA meetup, and I'm more than happy to see you again. Today is 22nd November, and today's guest is Nicole Hanusek. Hello, Nicole. Welcome to our show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's a pure pleasure. But also, we have another surprise. We also have Ken Crockett joining us tonight as a co-host. Hi, Ken, and welcome to our show.
Hi, everyone.
Since you both will now introduce yourself, because I will continue later with Nicole, I will first ask you, Ken, tell us a little bit about yourself and how are you doing these days?
Hi, my name's Ken. I'm doing pretty good these days. But yeah, a little bit about me. I've been with GoDaddy for almost 17 years. I had to figure out where exactly. It's like, wait, that's coming up here soon. But yeah, I've been with GoDaddy for quite a few years, and just joined Maya's team here with the GoDaddy Pro folks. And so
We'll see more Ken in community nowadays, since he's also working with us in the field. So watch out, here is Ken. So I'm sure if you see him anywhere, I'm sure he will be happy to speak to you. So enough about Ken, let's move to Nicole. Nicole, it's our pleasure, ultimate pleasure actually, to see you tonight here. There are many reasons why we have invited you here to share the knowledge with us among and in order to understand everything about yourself. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself? And that for the rest of the, when it comes to presentation, we will continue in the next question. Thank you very much.
Sure. So I am living in San Francisco. I've been designing and coding websites for about 23 years. I've had my business for about 13 years, and we mostly focus on building WordPress websites. I think I've had a relationship with GoDaddy since 2014, I think. So
welcome to the family. It's really nice to have you. So tell us a little bit more about Smack Happy Design. It was your vision, it was your baby, and then you developed it to a point of a very developed business, and you are a very successful business person too. So tell us a little bit how your journey started.
Sure. I began as a freelance web designer. And when I first started out, what I did was I sent an email to every single person I knew or sort of knew, even a little bit. And I said, hey, I'm freelancing now. I'm doing web design. I listed like the specific things that I was doing. And I gave like an example of how to introduce me in email. And it just kind of took off from there. About 5 or 6 years later, I was really busy. I had to start working with contractors and finding teammates. Then I had to figure out how to manage teammates and contractors. So I ended up working with a business coach, and she just turned my world upside down. And I was suddenly a business owner, not a freelancer anymore. And what I've learned is that I really enjoy running a business. When I was young, I was told I was bossy. And so I tried to like suppress that part of me because that was such a negative word. And so I've redefined who that bossy girl is, and I'm okay with it now.
Thank you very much. I think you've done a miracle first with the business that you started, but then also if you worked on yourself and you've become a better person, what you think you are. So that's really a double victory. So that question had 3 votes. So let me check the second question in line. Okay, there is a question with 4 votes. Being the owner of a company, what qualities are you looking for in your colleagues? I mean, you just said you've been hiring teams and people and, partnering with companies. How do you actually make this selection?
So I think the thing at the top of the list for us is actually attitude. Having a good attitude, a helpful attitude, and like really wanting to be a part of the team is not something you can teach. Skills, you can improve on skills, you can teach skills, but having the right attitude is just really key for fitting into our team. So that's mostly what we look for when we're hiring people.
So basically, you would even give a chance to somebody who doesn't have all the competencies, but if there is this positive energy, motivation, and ethics behind, then that would be a match for you, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's really, I mean, that's a very good information for all those juniors who are looking for jobs and who are still not able to land the first gig, So if they hear that there is like this spirit among company owners who are also looking at talent, not required, not only skills. So that's really positive. Thank you very much on behalf of all these people. So also, I wanted to ask you about some technical stuff. So how about your favorite page builder? Do you have one that you prefer or you use a couple of?
Yes, we do have a favorite. We absolutely love Beaver Builder. In my opinion, it is the best one out there because it's so easy to use. It's easy to teach to our clients, and it's not super heavy. You're not sitting there waiting and wait. Like my teammate was using Divi the other day, and she's like, "I can't charge the client 45 minutes for waiting for the builder to load. Like it's just not fair, right?" So we've used many of them. Sometimes we inherit client websites that have a different builder on them, but if it's up to us, it's Beaver Builder.
All right, that's awesome. Ken, do you have any preference when it comes to page builders?
Not really at the moment. I've been looking at something like Beaver Builder, but I'm just kind of going just fresh with my own website using the standard editor and making changes and adding to it from there. But
Go Warrior.
I just started up a new website, and so I'm still not quite sure where I want to go with it all yet, but I'm sure I'll end up expanding, probably utilizing a builder at some point. But right now,
Please
I'm just getting
update us.
everything placed where I want it and kind of getting the feel. And as more
Content.
content is added, yeah.
Content. I know I
Oh,
have
yeah.
the same thing with I'm supposed to spin up a new website, and content is just killing me because it's a fresh new idea, and nobody can give you ideas, so you have to come it up. First you have to understand the business concept, and then and Nicole, you would understand, then translate it into content that actually people would understand. So, wish us good luck.
Yeah. Content is always the holdup for all of our clients. Like we can move along the design and the coding and everything, but it's always content that takes the longest.
Correct. I agree fully. I think content is just requires a lot of inspiration and will, timely showing up instead of actually showing up in different times. So we have a question here from James Osborne. Hi, James. Nice to see you tonight. He says it must be even more competitive doing business in San Francisco compared to elsewhere. So was that a challenge for you?
Well, there are a lot of other web agencies to compete with out here, but I land more in the abundance category than I do in the scarcity category. So I believe there's enough work to go around for all of us, and I haven't really had any trouble. That also helps that we do a really great job and we have high quality work. And I do a lot of networking, so that's where I get most of our new business from. So I think if you put yourself out there, you can make it happen.
Awesome. So, James, I don't think it's very scary to go and open business in San Francisco. So, as per what Nicole said, I think it's easy stuff to do. So, we answered this question. Then, you've been involved in many projects. Any project that was very dear to you, or perhaps innovative enough for you to remember it?
Yeah, there's one really neat one. I've been working with them since 2014. It's the San Francisco fleet. When all the Navy ships and airplanes come to San Francisco, and you can't not notice them because they have the Blue Angels, and when they fly overhead, it's just so loud. Like everyone in the city knows that they're in town. And so I always thought it was kind of neat that I got to do their website and continue to do their website each year.
Did you also use the sounds for their website? So when you land on their page?
I haven't done that, but that would be fun.
Yeah, just a Christmas edition, very loud one.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what other questions we have. So, is there any like throughout your personal and business development, have you identified or perhaps have you worked with some affiliations or groups that you think would be beneficial for anyone who's starting a solopreneur career? Because one thing is to understand how to put a website together, right? But then there's another thing when you need to negotiate with clients, when you need to get some business sense, understand how to run the business, what skills you need to have. Would there be any association that you would be able to recommend to our viewers that they could go and search or ask for business advice?
Yes. A couple of years ago, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago, I took a course called WP Elevation. Troy Dean is the one who put that together and runs it. And it's all about setting up our specific businesses with websites so that you're is kind of putting in place a process for creating the proposals, for running the project, for getting approvals along the way, and then for the follow-up at the end. So it's like the whole process from start to finish. I took that course and it just made a huge difference in my business, and I've kind of, fine-tuned it and, personalized it to my own needs, but it's a fantastic course. I highly recommend it.
Would be awesome. Later on, you and I will sync perhaps after the event, so maybe you can share some of the links, and then we will put the YouTube of this video, because it's very important to share the knowledge where people can get. And how, for instance, how much time did it take you to go through all these courses? Was it time consuming or?
Well, with any course, I think you're going to have to go in knowing you have to commit some time to it. It's been a while since I took it, so it was probably an 8-week course, maybe. And they did offer meetings, like there's probably an hour meeting once a week. So like you go through a module, and then at that meeting at the end, you can ask questions. And so you're kind of implementing as you go through each week. So I want to say prepare at least 5 hours a week to go through the course, maybe roughly.
Wow, that's a really good advice. I mean, it's not only the will, but there has to be some time as well that people need to put an effort. All right, and the last question from my end is the key success points to what are the key success points to any business, to any online business or business with WordPress, web development?
There is one really, really easy thing you all can do to stand out above the rest, and that is to actually respond, be responsive. I get so many clients coming our way who are like, yeah, my web developer isn't responding. They're not responsive. So they're looking for somebody new. There's like some Bermuda Triangle out there full of web developers who just don't respond. So that's the number one simplest thing. Just actually respond. Like if you're getting an email and you can't work on it yet, don't just let it sit there. Say, hey, I received this. I'll be able to look at it next week, right? Like you're setting an expectation. You're letting them know that you actually got it. They're not sitting there wondering. So it's really quick and simple to keep in touch and set the expectation and keep things moving forward. And then also just be honest and upfront about things. If something does go wrong, just say, hey, it's technology. Things go wrong with technology all the time, right?
Yes.
We're constantly getting software updates for our computers or our phones. So that's a really good analogy you can use with your clients to say, hey, there are updates to WordPress, there are updates to plugins. These things break sometimes. And this is why we keep them updated and why we have to go in every now and then to refresh them or change them, because technology is not perfect.
I agree fully. So before we move into the presentation that we have agreed for today, I wanted to ask you, what was harder? Was it harder to learn how to build a website, or it's harder how to run the company?
How to run the company, definitely.
No. All right. So I mean, I suspected but I thought like, I mean, there are people who find managing companies very interesting, but not many of them. So yes, it is hard. So today we will be talking about 10 things that every website should have. I would not further delay your presentation. So basically, Ken and I, we will minimize and we will stay in chat. And I will give you the floor. Are you able to share your screen just to check?
Well, it's giving me a system preferences thing here. Okay, I think I should be good. Yeah, you see?
Nope. Oh yeah, we see it now. That's
Okay.
it. So we'll be in the chat collecting all the questions, and if there is anything that goes wrong, I will just show up here on the screen, perhaps if the mic is muted or something like that, but I'll just be there in case you need me.
All right, great. So let's go ahead and get started here. I was going to give you a little bit of background info, so some of this might be a repeat. I'll go through it quickly. I started my web consulting career back in 1998 in Cleveland, Ohio. I moved out to the San Francisco Bay Area in 2005. And in 2008, I started freelancing with my company, Smack Happy Design. And then by 2014, I had way too much work. I was getting too busy, so I had to start looking for some teammates to work with me. And now I think the possibilities are endless. There are about 9 of us on the team. Here's a quick little snapshot of everyone. And we are all over the US with one person in Greece. So we were remote even before the pandemic started. And we endeavor to fill the internet with unique, honest, and welcoming websites that excite and inspire. So enough about us. Let's start with a fun question, and please no cheating. You put your answers into the chat. How many websites are there out there? Take some guesses. 20 billion. Anybody else have a guess? 2 billion? 4 billion? These are great guesses. It is 1.88 billion websites. Now, some of these websites are not so great. Some of them are awesome. And we want to make sure that we're creating something at least somewhere in the middle, closer to the awesome side, or at least very usable and helpful to the people we have landing on them. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to go through each of these items, and we're going to cover them in these 4 key concepts: the fold, usability, technical, and trust. So let's start with the fold. Does anyone know what the fold is? Let me say in the chat. I am imagining someone typing. Give this a second. Typing, yes. The initial view, yes. The first screen that comes up on a website, yes, yes. It is that first bit of the screen that you see before you scroll. So on a desktop, laptop, mobile screen, kind of what you see here in this screenshot. And that first colorful spot is usually what we call the hero section. That's the industry term. So we're going to talk a little about why this is so important. It's all about first impressions. So I'm going to share a few stats with you to kind of help emphasize why the fold is so important. You typically have less than 5 seconds to capture your audience's attention, or they're going to hit that back button. 94% of first impressions are design related and formed within 0.05 seconds, which is super, super fast. 66% of consumers think transparency is one of the most attractive qualities in a brand. And 75% of consumers admit to making judgments on a company's credibility based on their website design. So all of this to say that, whatever you have above the folds is really important in determining whether or not someone's going to stick around and interact with your website. So let's talk about the first couple of things that we can do to help with that first impression. Number one thing on our list is what you do. So in the hero section, it's going to be front and center, really simply say what you do or what your website is about. Make sure that you're using words that are clear and concise, because again, remember, they're going to hit the back button if they're not in the right place. The second thing on our list is a clear call to action, or CTA. And this usually comes in the form of a button, again, front and center in that hero section. So you can see here that button is orange. It kind of stands out and really pops. And what you want to do with this button is take your user to that number one action on your website. What is the number one thing that they're coming here for? So in this case, we have an equipment company, and most likely the people who land on Vincent's site are going to want to see the listings for the equipment. So you can also have multiple call to actions on a website. And you want to be careful about this, because you can also have too many, and then it becomes confusing for the user on where to go next. So if you are going to have multiple buttons, like if I wanted to have two other options here, I would still maybe have one stick out more than the others so that it's really clear what to do next. The third thing on our list is contact information. A phone number, email address, contact link. And this is usually in the top right corner of the website. It could also be in the footer of the website. So people would generally look in those two areas for the contact information. And this is really important because 44% of website visitors will leave a company's website if there's no contact information or phone number. And this matters because what if someone's coming to your website and they're frustrated? So they just want to call and get in touch and get to their answer. Or what if they would rather speak to you on the phone as opposed to filling out a form or typing something out? In all the situations, this is going to help inform visitors that you're legitimate, you're a verifiable business, and it's going to be, you're going to be more approachable because you're letting them know that they can get in touch. So now let's talk a little about usability. This is the measure of how well a specific user in a specific context can use a product or design to achieve their goal effectively, efficiently, and satisfactorily. In other words, Don't Make Me Think, which is the title of a book by Steve Krug. It's all about web usability. And Don't Make Me Think also happens to be his number one overarching rule. So each time a user has to pause, even for a split second, to think about something, it distracts them from the action you want them to take on your website. The goal is to make your website effortless to use, make it self-explanatory, if not self-evident. So a website is self-evident when users just get what it's about and how to use it without having to think. So let's talk about a few stats. 88% of online consumers are less likely to return to a site after a bad experience. Mobile devices were projected to comprise 63% of global internet use by the end of 2019. So I'm sure that number is even higher by now. And, if you just think about how, if we're all standing in line somewhere, you're going to pull out your phone, you're going to start doing something. Or if you're bored, you're going to pull out your phone and you're going to start doing something. And maybe one of those things is a task that you need to get done. And that task brings someone to your website. So you want to make sure that they're going to have a good experience. Nearly 8 in 10 customers would stop engaging with content that doesn't display well on their device. And honestly, people are going to think less of your business if the website isn't done well. So let's talk about the fourth thing on our list, which is navigation. You want to make it conventional. So it should, these days, most navigation goes across the top of the website, and you want to use words that people are looking for. Use some standard navigation words. So for example, instead of saying who we are, what if this company used the word rock stars? Now I come to the website and I want to find out who's on their team. I'm not necessarily going to know that the word rock stars is all about the team members. So stick to convention, use words people know. Here are some examples. And I'm going to share a PDF of this when we're all done, so you don't necessarily have to try to jot those all down quickly. But these are some really standard words. And if you stick to these, then you're not going to make people think when they're coming to your website. They're just going to look for products or careers or blog, right? So additionally, with navigation, you want to make sure that on mobile, you're using that little hamburger menu. That's what the little 3 lines have turned into for the industry. It's called a hamburger menu. And you want to make sure that, you know, when it opens up your menu on the phone, that the navigation items are far enough apart that you can easily click with your thumb. If it's a little too hard to hit the right one, then that's going to be a bad user experience. So you want to keep that in mind and make sure you're doing those tests when you set up a website. The 5th thing on our list is responsive and adaptive pages. So what this means is that all of the content, the text, the images, the components, everything on the page, no matter how big or small the screen, it's all going to adjust and align no matter what the device. Now, this also means loading quickly and efficiently. So for example, on a big desktop computer that has a retina screen, you might want to have a large photo that's really high res and nice detail. And you wouldn't necessarily want to load that same image on a mobile device because it's just going to be way too big and it's going to take a while to load. And a person on their mobile device might not be on a fast network if they're out and about. So you can load different image sizes based on what size screen someone is using. And that's going to help with the usability of the website. It's going to help it load quickly. Because when it's sitting there spinning and spinning, people are just going to hit the back button. They're going to get out of there. They're not going to wait. So now let's talk a little bit about the technical stuff with security and maintenance. So Google has been using HTTPS as a ranking signal since 2014. We'll come back to this in a moment. 85% of online shoppers avoid unsecure websites. Over 39% of the internet is made of WordPress. 39%. That's a lot of WordPress websites out there. And 52% of WordPress vulnerabilities are due to outdated WordPress plugins. Does everyone know what a plugin is? You want to give me a little note in the chat? Does anyone want to say what a plugin is, just in case there's someone here who doesn't know? I'll give that a second. Yes, Daniel says he knows what a plugin is. So, okay, I'm thinking everybody knows. It helps. Okay, here's a quick definition. In WordPress or any kind of content management system, a plugin or an add-on is some code written by another third-party person, and the plugin is going to help enhance your website in some way. It could add some feature like optimizing images or creating a photo gallery. It's some piece of code that you kind of plug into the site that does a little more and enhances the website. So let's go back to that HTTPS, having an SSL certificate on your website, which is that little lock at the top in the address bar. Now, this is really important because it helps make users feel safe. If there's any information that is passed through your website from the user to the website itself, this SSL certificate is going to encrypt that information. So if they're filling out a contact form or if they're doing e-commerce, this lock is going to make it secure. And then again, as I mentioned, it also helps with Google ranking. If you don't have this secure lock, you're likely going to lose points in Google, and you're definitely not going to be anywhere near the first page. And most people don't go past that first page. So very important to have this SSL certificate. And I think GoDaddy, they do offer a pretty quick and easy way to install an SSL certificate. The customer service around that is really good. So the 7th thing on our list is maintenance, especially for WordPress or any other kind of content management system. That's what CMS stands for. And you can use a tool called Manage WP for WordPress sites to help update the plugins in a safe environment. So it'll help you create a backup, and then you can update your plugins. If anything goes wrong, you can revert on that backup. But again, the reason this is so important is because there are so many WordPress sites out there, so they become a huge target for hacking. Over 30,000 websites per day are hacked, and that number is growing. And the number one reason is security. So you've got to keep those plugins updated, and you've got to keep WordPress itself updated. Now, another piece of maintenance is auto renewals for your domain and hosting. So the domain is the address, right? So in our case, it's smackhappy.com. And then the hosting is where the website lives. So you might have hosting on GoDaddy. Now, for both of these items, you can turn on an auto renewal so that every time that comes up, it just automatically renews and you're automatically billed for it. And I highly recommend turning that on so that you don't lose your website. We've had multiple clients whose websites got lost because they didn't get the notification and they didn't have auto renewals turned on. Now, another reason or another thing to keep in mind is whatever credit card you have on file, make a note of when that expires, because if the renewal comes up and the credit card expired, you will also possibly lose the site. So get those auto renewals turned on, and then make a calendar note on when you need to update the credit card for these renewals as well. All right, so the last thing on our list is trust, which is ultimately whether or not someone is going to buy your product or service. So here are a few facts that help support why this is important. 8 out of 10 consumers say they need to be able to trust the brand in order to buy from them. 92% of people said they read testimonials when considering a purchase. And 73% of consumers cite customer experience as an important factor in their purchasing decisions. 77% of consumers buy from brands who share the same values as they do. So all of this is kind of, factoring in everything we've learned so far. But let's talk a little about how to help build on this trust. The 8th thing on our list is proof. And that comes in the form of testimonials, case studies, statistics. What you want to do is get real testimonials out there on a third-party website like Google or Yelp, or there could be something industry specific to what you're doing. And the reason that's important is it's coming in the actual client's voice, right? They have to add that themselves, as opposed to on your own website where you could be making it up, but getting it on the third-party site proves that it's actually out there in the world. So I have a process actually for gathering testimonials. If you're interested, there's a link here that will be in the PDF. And when you get those testimonials on a third-party website, then go ahead and put a copy of them on your website. The ninth thing on our list is privacy, which is becoming more and more important these days. And that comes in the form of a cookie banner, privacy policy, and terms and conditions. And with the cookie policy, we did something fun on our website instead of making it just that boring line across the bottom. So if it makes sense for your brand, you can get kind of fun and playful with that. And people are really getting used to seeing these banners across the bottom of of people's websites as they're browsing. So it's turning into a trust factor. And when you have the cookie banner or the privacy policy and terms and condition, this shows the visitors that you actually care about their information and their data, and it gives them the confidence to browse with you or shop with you. So the last thing on our list is some info about you. Is there a person behind this company? Put yourself out there. People are often sold on what you're offering because of who you are and what you stand for. And it feels a little suspicious when there's little to no information offered about you on your website. This really will help you connect with people. Tell the story about why you started your business. Talk about what matters most to you or what your mission is or what your goal is. And this is really important, whether you're big or small, to really show the human side of the business. And you also want to get some professional photos taken if you can. Using a photo that I've seen this before where maybe someone has cropped someone else out of the image. Everyone can always tell. Don't use those photos. Go get some real nice photos taken. And if you can't get some professional ones taken, then just go outside. Take some photos outside in indirect sunlight, because that lighting is going to be really good and bright, and it'll give you a high quality image. So here's what we covered today. We want to talk about what you do on the website, front and center, make it really easy to understand so they know they're in the right place. Have a clear call to action, front and center again in that hero section. Take the users right to what they're going to need most on your website. Contact info, make it easy to find. Put that in the top right or in the bottom in the footer. Navigation, make sure you're using conventional words that people are looking for, and make sure you have a good mobile menu set up that's easy to use. Having responsive and adaptive pages, make sure they load well and load quickly on all the various devices. Having an SSL certificate, make sure that their information is secure, and that'll also help you with Google and other search engine rankings. Maintenance, monitoring, and renewals, keep those sites technically updated so that they're staying safe, and get those renewals turned on so that you're not losing your website, because it is not fun when you have to try and recover it. And then proof and testimonials, show your users that other people have used your services and that they really enjoyed working with you, to remove some of that risk. The cookie banner, privacy policy, terms of service, show people that you want to protect their information and that it's safe to engage with you. And then some info about yourself and your business. Put yourself out there. Let them know who they're working with, because that's really going to help you connect. So now we're on to question time. And I have a link. Should I put the link for the PDF in
the chat? Please do.
Okay.
Please do. Please do, because I already see a couple of questions waiting for you, and sitting and waiting for you. So actually, let's move on to first question that was asked by Daniel. I think it was related to the section 7 where you were talking about maintenance. So he says, sorry, but don't you keep backups of your clients' websites?
Yes, we use Managed WP, and that has backups that we keep.
All right. Yes. I don't know if anyone else here among the people who are here with us tonight, or people who will be watching, are using Manage WP, but that's one of them. Yeah. Here it is. Predrag is already putting a heart next to it. So, but that's really a program that the community is using for a very long time. So let's move to the other questions from our attendees. So, what made you choose Smack Happy Design as your company name? I'm sure you get this a lot, right?
Yes, it stands out, and some people have actually contacted us because of the name. So when I was still at my full-time job and I wanted to take the plunge and do the freelancing full-time, I was trying to come up with a name, and I wanted it to be memorable, easy to spell, and of course the domain name had to be available. So I was thinking on it for a whole month, trying to come up with something. And I was at work one day, and my coworker, who would often annoy me, was annoying me yet once again. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go Smack Happy on him. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's available.
So, and it was
Yes.
awesome. But it's also a very brave move, because usually when starting their own solopreneur career, they're like, they want to go low profile. They don't want to go something with that's outstanding, because they don't know how that will reflect on the potential clients and stuff. But in your case, you see, you were brave and courageous, and then it paid off in the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it hard to optimize, to do the optimization of Smack Happy Design website? I've seen your website. It's really one of the best websites I've ever been to. Very informative. I also shared it in the chat if anyone would like to check it out. I also shared it in the chat, and I believe it has numerous information, but the content doesn't actually choke you in the end. But it's really well planned. So whoever hasn't been to Nicole's website, just at the beginning of our chat, you will see the link to it, so we don't have to repeat it. The next question by James. What do you do if you have a challenging client who is looking for something you really don't agree with design-wise, like fonts, grainy images, poor logo, colors? So how do you how do you deal with a stubborn client?
Yes, that is the least fun part of our job, right? So when our clients are asking us for something that we don't agree with, we do our best to educate them. And I think taking an educational approach is like the best way to look at it. You don't want to make them feel like they're wrong or they're being attacked in some way. So we will present several options. We'll say, okay, here's based on industry standards, here's what we recommend, and here's why we recommend not to do specifically what you asked for. So just kind of basing it on the industry, basing it on education, and taking that approach has been really helpful for us.
I wish sometimes that there are actually courses in business schools where they courses relevant to how to make your own website online. It's like, listen to your developer and designer. Take their advice seriously. I think this is what's missing in the business books nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Because kind of like, I mean, I think that we as people, we got used to like getting involved. I mean, when you go to the hairstylist, probably I'm one of the rare people who just goes there and sits there and says, when they ask me like, what would you like to do? And I'm like, just look at me and what can you make best out of this? Okay.
Yeah.
So because I trust the experts from this point, so I believe I believe that even the business owners of business and people who are starting their careers online, I think that they should really listen to the experts that have been building this universe. And there is another question. Mhm. When it comes to, I mean, when you spoke about navigation, I don't know if you have any observations or if you would like to notice something, but I would like to notice something. When it comes to navigation, for instance, the specific part you spoke about, I see a lot of, I mean, I'm not very, how to say, I'm not a person who approves standardization always, because I think that sometimes it really creates a lot of mess. But do you see that website industry is slowly being standardized when it comes to design? Hello?
Sorry, was that question for me or Ken?
No, it was for you. I thought like, do you feel that standardization of navigation, let's say, of hamburger, and do you think that this is now something that will stay for some, like the best practice model?
Yeah, I think it will stay until something better comes along. Or if we have some sort of big change in the way our devices work. For example, I noticed that the latest update on the iPhone iOS, they've put the address bar and everything down on the bottom now by your thumb, which makes sense, right? So now,
Correct.
based on that, maybe it makes more sense to put the hamburger menu on the bottom as well, because then
Yes.
you want to be right there.
I was totally like shocked. How come because of the reading from left to right, right? I was totally shocked at first when the hamburger moved from left to right, and I'm like, why did they move this? It makes no sense. But then because I use my right hand, I'm like, hey, this is very convenient. It's really easier for me to actually browse. And at the beginning, I was like, no, why did they do this? Because just logically, I was expecting it somewhere else. But then from a functionality point of view, it was better somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like, has there been anything, for instance, in what you would be able to suggest to solopreneurs, people who are looking for jobs as well? How would you nowadays, if somebody asks you, I would like to start with WordPress and creating websites online, how do you point this person? How would you, what would be the best advice actually to give?
Do you mean learning how to do it?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm best to
You,
answer that because I started so long ago.
that's true.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
and how about project management? Now more than before, you're working on project management. Has project management and timelines and schedules and calendars and calls, has that become like mostly what you do there at work?
Mostly what I do now is actually sales and networking, when my team does all of the execution. So it's been an interesting shift. I do still sometimes provide art direction, or I'll help the team get unstuck on something technically every now and then. But yeah, I hardly ever design or code anymore.
Well, that could be a relief from one point, but then there is a burden of different type actually coming your way,
Yeah.
which is clients, partners,
Yeah.
documents, legal documents, right? So many things. Ken, do you have any question for Nicole?
I had one, and that was the name of the company, but somebody else beat me to asking it because
I believe.
I thought it was interesting. I was like, this is a great name, and it's kind of funny how you came across came up with that name.
Yeah. Well,
Very unique. I like it.
since we don't have too many questions, Nicole, first of all, I would like to thank you for joining us tonight. I think we learned a lot, and even if we knew these things, I think you actually sorted them and organized them in a proper way that we can understand, and that many other people can understand. So in the chat, you will find a link, but also it will be embedded in the video YouTube that we will shortly list. Ken, thank you also very much for joining us. I hope you also enjoyed. We've seen a number of the chat was actually very busy, so I'm very happy that people responded to it. And Daniel is here saying that your site, Nicole's site, is great, and it could be one of those sites examples of what, where, and how websites should be. Okay,
We try to practice what we preach.
exactly. Usually, in my country, there is a saying that a shoemaker never has good shoes, right? That a plumber, I don't know how it's in other part of the world, does the same spirit exist. So, and many of friends of mine in WordPress, they're struggling even to spin up their own website because they're working a lot. But here, what Daniel said is actually that you are walking the talk.
Yes. So we just redesigned the site and launched it earlier this year. Before that, it was 4 or 5 years old, and it was starting to feel old. So I think our cobbler's shoes were not being taken care of for a little while there, but we were able to finally find the time to get it updated. And I think something to note too is like you probably want to refresh a website every 4 or 5 years because it will start to feel old visually, could be a little old technically, and also you just start adding things on without thought after a while, so it becomes like a hodgepodge and doesn't feel as organized. So doing that refresh helps you kind of rethink and regroup and have it make more sense.
I'm happy that it's not often than that, because I was already thinking that web agencies are changing websites twice a year, because with all the updates and innovations and everything new that's going on in WordPress, I think it's. Do you think it's the easiest way to showcase what you do as a company or as a person through a website, or you think the word of mouth would do a better job? I mean.
Well, I think it depends on the business. For one thing, is to like where it makes the most sense for business to come from. In our particular case, 75 to 80% of our new business is word of mouth, and the website helps seal the deal. So someone heard about us, they got our info, and so they go and check out our website either before they talk to us or after they talk to us. And so the website plays a really big part in helping them decide whether or not they really want to work with us.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure you already have a couple of fans from the chat, and people really like what you were saying. And Daniel is also adding that there is a program made for WordPress learning that allows WordPress to run locally for a learning process. So learn, repeat, try, fix the mistakes, learn, and all the way, and repeat yourself, right? So thank you everyone for joining our show today. Next time we will meet next Monday, when we will be talking about actually this transfer and the shift from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. What does it bring to WordPress? And I hope you will be able to join us. Nicole, we will be expecting you as well to join us when we have some interesting talks, and perhaps to give your direct contribution as well. Ken, I also see you next week. Everyone, thank you very much for all the great time we had. And this video will be posted on our YouTube channel in 2 days. Candace, it was really nice to see you as well. And we are happy that we gave you the info that you really enjoyed hearing and that you might be able to apply it. So all the best to everyone. And since in America the Thanksgiving is coming, we are wishing all the best to our American fellows across the sea, across the ocean. Actually, in EMEA, we are wrapping up our day and moving to our dinners. Thank you very much, and I see you next Monday. See you.
Thank you.